Hello and welcome to Brian Lomax's Movie Talk. On to episode 8 of season 1 of Gotham. This one's called The Mask, and it takes a look at, I can't remember his first name, but Sionis, basically Black Mask's father. We don't actually get to see Roman Sionis in this, the man who becomes Black Mask. We see his dad, who does have this obsession with masks and also an obsession with battle and war and fighting. And, you know, there's a bit of a Fight Club element to this episode, and I've seen this before in other TV shows where that kind of Fight Club principle is brought in and used essentially as an excuse to just have some fight scenes in a show. It gets a bit macho, a bit machismo, and I'm talking usually here, like I've seen it done in Star Trek, I've seen it done in Smallville, I've seen it done, I think they did something like it in X-Files, and I've seen it in a few shows, some other superhero shows, and they don't tend to fare that well, because like I say, at the end of the day, it just becomes some machismo nonsense that I switch off at and can't really engage with. Because it doesn't really ask questions. It doesn't really use that element to say anything, you know? What this episode does is find that, I think. You know, it takes this concept, it takes the whole Fight Club element and it injects it into this particular episode using Sionis. But it uses it in a way that asks questions about Gordon and about Bruce, you know, who they are as people. We have Gordon, who is an ex-military man. You know, he's fought, he's killed. Sionis sees this in Gordon, and Gordon also sees it in Sionis, but he sees what a fake Sionis is as well. You know, he can read this guy. He knows that he hasn't seen true battle. He's manipulated people. He's controlled these situations in which he's got people to fight, but he hasn't been on the battlefield, and Gordon knows that. He smells it on him. You see it in this really great exchange between the two. But then it talks about, it looks at Gordon, and it's like Gordon has seen that stuff. The question is, because of that, does he thrive on it? You know, could he live without it? And Bullock calls him out on it at one point. You know, even Barbara does. Not in any kind of huge way. It's a bit of an undercurrent in something that she says, and then she doesn't pursue it any further after that. But yeah, everyone is kind of pointing towards Gordon as being this man who actually. Is he even able to leave battle behind, or does he need it? Does he crave it? Is that why he's in Gotham? You know, he gives a really good response at the end of the episode when he comes back to Bullock and he says, you know, that I don't crave the fight. I don't want to fight, but I'm willing to when it's necessary. And you know, he makes a good case there for cleaning up Gotham. Basically, you know, they live in this town that needs someone like Gordon. And then, yeah, so that, like I say, it uses that whole Fight Club element to bring this stuff out of the characters. And we get the same with Bruce. So we see that Bruce, he's got fight in him. Because, you know, there's this guy, this lad at school. Alfred forces him to go back to school, actually. And it's a really funny moment, funny exchange between them at the beginning when Bruce challenges Alfred to come up with a good reason as to why he should go to school instead of just being homeschooled. And then he says, and you know, give a good defence for it. And Alfred just shrugs it off and says, you're going to bloody school whether you like it or not. And again, really like those two actors and what they bring to these scenes. But he goes to school and he ends up getting bullied, and somebody says something about his mum. And instantly Bruce slaps this guy. And, you know, he doesn't have the physicality, he doesn't have the fighting skills to take this guy down, but he still goes for him. You know, he has a go. So you see that actually his personality is built that way. You know, Batman is in there somewhere. He just doesn't have the skills, and he doesn't know how to channel that rage properly. Alfred kind of teaches him a little bit like that. Not, you know, just not full on, but we get to the end of the episode and Bruce asks him to, and Alfred agrees. But yeah, really great moment with really irresponsible moment as well, when Alfred basically takes Bruce to this guy's house and gets him to beat the crap out of him. You know, he says, look, if you're going to do it properly. He takes him to his house and just makes him do it. And he looks at this kid. Alfred looks at this kid and he's just like, "You all right, sir? Any broken bones?" And he just doesn't care about this guy, this lad. You know, he cares about Bruce. He cares about Bruce standing up for himself and not backing away from bullies. And I respect that. Maybe not the best approach the way they go in this, but I certainly respect it. So yeah, you know, while Gordon's off fighting in these fight clubs, you got Bruce in this situation, and this is really about making Bruce the kind of person who's able to fight back. You know, who's able to take what is inside him, what is internal, and make it external. And Alfred helps him to do that. So yeah, like I say, it's a concept that's been used before in other episodes, but to not to great effect. Whereas here, I think it does have something to say. I think it's used well. So for that reason, I do like what they do with it. There's a nice sequence when Essen comes to Gordon and apologises for what she did in the last episode, when she walked away and left him to it with the whole situation with Zas in the police station. And it's a really nice moment. And again, it's like I said in the last episode, I felt like that was a turning point. I feel like it gets Essen more on board with Gordon's agenda now, rather than with, say, the mayor's agenda, or that just how things have been riding for so long. You know, Gordon is starting to influence people. Because he's standing up to crime, because he's standing up to corruption, it trickles down. It starts to infect other people. Even Bullock, you know, Bullock is getting infected by it. And in this episode, you know, Bullock, he makes his big speech to all the police officers when Gordon's in trouble and no one will help him. And he goes to bat for him, and as does Essen. Essen backs up Bullock. So you can see how, yeah, the Gordon effect, if you want to call it that, is trickling down into other people. And you can see how little actions, you know, just they shape other people. And you can change things. So I like that element of this episode. I also love the way that Bullock interrogates people. I've seen it before in this show, and we get it again in this one, when he's interrogating this guy who had his finger bitten off by one of the people he was fighting, and he killed that guy, but left his finger in the guy's mouth when he dumped the body. And Bullock just shouts it in his face. He's like, you know, like, most killers leave their fingerprints at the crime scene. You left your finger. And it's just, his interrogation technique is just, yeah, amusing, to say the least. I really love Bullock, I've got to say. The more I watch this show, the more I love Bullock as a character. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's kind of all I got to say really about this episode. Again, it's another strong episode. I'd give this a 4. Just because it takes an element I've seen before and actually uses it in a way that I feel has value. So there you go, 4 out of 5 from me. But what about you? What did you think of this episode, The Mask? Please comment below, let me know. And until next time, cracking.